We're going to start reading the book of Job. We're going to start with the first 5 verses.
Job 1. There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job. That man was blameless and upright, and one who feared God and turned away from evil. There were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters. His possessions also were 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 she-donkeys, and a very great house. So that his man was the greatest of all the children of the east. His sons went and held a feast in the house of each one on his birthday. And they sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and to drink with them. It was so, when the days of their feasting had run their course, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning, and offering burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, "It might be that my son hath sinned and renounced God in their hearts." Thus did Job continuously.
Awesome. Okay, a little bit of background before we dive into it straight away. The book of Job, or Iyob in the Hebrew, is part of what we call the Ketuvim, not the Torah. So it's one of the first poetic books of the Old Testament. The oldest fragment of it we find around the 1st century CE, or after Messiah, the 1st century. So we got a fragment of the book of Job from 100 years after Messiah's death, around there. And that fragment is Job chapter 42, verse 10 and 11. And it correlates exactly with the older copies that we have of the LXX Septuagint. So we know that the sources match. Therefore, we have a pretty good, faithful copy of the book of Job. There's other things to correlate it back to that. But yeah, everything is legit. And it is believed to have been created around the time of the Persian campaigns, when Israel was taken captive. So we're looking at about 540 thereabouts BCE. So the first, what's it called? The first exile, where Israel was exiled. So that's the time frame. There are other things I've seen online where they sort of place it before Genesis. That really doesn't have too much weight to hold on to it in terms of the archaeological and the sort of like the way that they speak and the way that they write. What's that called? The style of writing. And so I think it's pretty safe to place Job around that time period. So think about the Persians around that era. Sorry. And why is Job significant? Because when you're dealing with what we've been talking about, we're talking about the armor of God. We talked about, God's protection, our relationship with God, all these things that come into play in terms of spiritual warfare. And while we're talking about the spirit realm, the good and evil, and the battle for the soul of mankind, it's important to understand how it all works, the dynamics of it. And Job is one of those books that sort of throws a wrench into the works, because you're not expecting certain things to happen. And I think it's a good book to sort of understand from the perspective of the spiritual world how things happen. Because we always come back to our world and how things happen in the physical world. But rarely do we see how things transpire or how things work from the spirit realm. And I think this is the beauty of the book of Job, because it gives you a glimpse into that realm. So let's start from verse 1. It says, there was a man from the land of Uz, whose name was Iyob. And that man was blameless and upright. So let's begin by those two words, blameless and upright. How do we know a person is blameless and upright when the Bible says they're blameless and upright?
They keep the Torah.
They keep the Torah. Oh, but it's impossible to keep the Torah. It's impossible to keep the law of God. The Bible is telling me right here that Job was righteous and upright according to the Torah, right? If he was not, the Bible will not say it. The scriptures will not point out something that is not true. Yeah? So the first premise that we have is that Job was a Torah man who kept the laws of God and was pleasing in the sight of God. Yeah? So that's the first thing there. And then it says that he was one who feared God and shunned evil. What's the fear of God?
Wisdom. The beginning of wisdom.
Yeah, we've talked about fear of God before. Those who did the study, the fear of God. What's the fear of God?
To know who he is and
Yeah, the Hebrew word yareh, to fear God, right? Which is based on knowledge. It means to know God, right? You know what he's capable. You don't mess with him because you know what he's capable of. You know who he is. You know what he's going to do in different situations because he's already told you the end from the beginning, right? And so because he's done that, because you know him, then you respect what he is. Yeah? He's not your buddy, he's not your mate. You don't pull him out of the pocket and use him as an amulet. Give me good luck. Or as what's it called? A shopping list. Gimme, gimme, gimme. No, he's God. He's God and he demands certain things from us. And since he's the creator and we are the creation, then there are some things that are required of us in dealing with him. Yeah? We don't go and tell him what to do. He tells us what to do. We don't go and set the rules. He sets the rules because he's made it, right? He's the creator. And so there is a level of respect that we need to have when we come to him in understanding who he is. That's called the fear of God. Right? It's not that you need to be terrified of him. Oh, what's,
he's going to kill me.
He's going to kill me. Yeah?
I guess to easily put it, it's not to be terrified of God, but to be disciplined.
That's right.
Obedient.
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
they use
Absolutely.
Just like you fear your parents in terms of obedience and follow them with your loyalty
Yeah.
in the same way.
Absolutely. And you know that your parents are trying to do the best they can for you. We don't always get it right, humanly speaking. God always gets it right, spiritually speaking, right? And so, because He's got our best intention in His heart, we obey gladly, right? Because we know Him. And that's the fear of God. It's got to do with reverence, really. Because we know who He is and how He will act in a certain situation, then we are reverent to make sure that we don't transgress His laws because they're good for us too. Yeah? That's why He set them out. He put out His laws for us, not to trip on ourselves. They're protection for us. He doesn't gain anything from it. And this man, Iyob, he shunned evil. What does that mean? Something many people don't do these days.
Didn't want to do the wrong thing.
Turned away from it.
Yeah. The picture of Joseph running away from the adulterous wife comes to mind. He shunned. He put evil away from himself. He made a separation between himself and evil. Whatever's evil stays out there. Whatever's righteous, come with me. Right? There has to be a divide. And Torah is divisive. Torah, the law of God is set out so that it makes a division between what is holy and what is profane, what is righteous and what is evil. Yeah? Definition between what is good and what is bad. It cuts a clear line that we have to follow. Right? It doesn't blur the what's it called, the horizon. It doesn't blur it for us. It's either black or white, and it's not in between. There's no shades of gray in between. Torah is very straightforward. People try to manipulate it, and that's when they fall into sin. Yeah? Because you can't mess with God's word. Deuteronomy 4:2 says that. Right? You are not to add, not to diminish from this law that I give you today. You are not to take away or add to it. The moment you start adding or taking away from it, that's when you're in trouble. We might not like some things, but it doesn't matter what we like. He is the creator. He made the system. And these are the rules that govern that system that He created. Does that make sense? You mess with the rules of the system, it's like, we've been talking with Sam a lot about programming and Kayla lately. So programming is in the back of my head. If you program right and you got all the statements, Boolean statements and all the other statements right, everything works fine, doesn't it? Start messing with the code. Start adding your own little lines here, whatever else. And you're going to get in trouble eventually. Unless you actually know what you're doing. If you created a code, not a problem. You know your code. But try to program with other people's code. Anyway. Right, it's a mess. And that's the problem with a lot of programs. But anyway, we're not going there. Keep it simple, people. Don't mess with the code. There is a set of rules, which isn't that much actually, it's not that hard. Between 150 and 200 laws. That's all you ever have to keep, ever. We've got over 2,000 laws just to drive a car on the road. And we keep those without a problem. But Iyob was a man of dignity. He was a man who was faithful. Right? At the end of the day, that's the word. He was faithful. Right? He did what he said, and he meant what he said too. He was a faithful man. Faithful to God. He shunned evil. He had 7 sons. Why 7? Yeah.
Because the last one was easy to raise.
6 is the number of man. what is possible with man. 7 is by divine intervention with God's help. Yeah? So 7 is the number of completion with God's help. Right? 7 is the number that is possible with God's help. And he had 3 daughters. Don't ask me. 7 and 3 make 10. 10 is the number of judgments. Ooh, here we go. Why 10? Judgments. So 7 sons and 3 daughters. They were born to him. Also, his possessions were 7,000 sheep. 7 again. And 3,000 camels. Again, 10, right? 7 and 3. 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys. Why 5 and 5? Make 10. Mercy.
Lucky few.
Yep. So we got 7, 3, 7, 3, 5 and 5. Those that do gematria. Where's Eliana? She loves gematria. Right, so you got 7, 3, 7, 3, 5 and 5. They all add up to 10. One has 2 5s, which is mercy, double portion. Numbers have meanings in the scriptures, right? The scriptures are full of numbers. Every number has a meaning, and there is a reason why it's placed there. He had a very large household, so that this man was the greatest of all the people of the East. He was the richest man on the earth at that point, pretty much. And his sons will go and feast in their houses, each on his appointed day. Some translations translate that as birthday. It actually says just day, on his day. It is a Hebraism to point out, or in the Greek as well, is pointing out to the day, to his day, or the day that belongs to him. So some people believe that that relates to the day they were born. You do with that one as you see fit. And they would send and invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. Right? So they each, let's say it was birthdays, right? On their day or their appointed day or their birthday, they would make a big feast, party on, woo woo, right? And they would invite the 3 sisters to come and eat with them. So the 7 boys were going around having feasts, each on their own houses, and they would invite the sisters. What's wrong with that picture? What do you guys think?
No, but into celebrations and parties.
No? Okay. Yep, that's what's wrong. Why didn't they invite their parents? What's the 5th commandment? Honor your father and mother. Right? That it might go well with you, that you might have long life. Is the only commandment with promise. What were they doing that they couldn't invite their parents? That's the other question. Why only the sisters? Right? Big kids party. The sisters invited, but not the parents. And Job was a righteous man. I mean, if, God forbid, your your parents are not in Torah, whatever else, that's a different story. But Job was a righteous man who had provided for his children. They all had houses, obviously. Where do you think the houses came from? Job, of course. Male boys, they were given an inheritance with Job in life. They all had houses, but they couldn't be bothered to invite mom and dad. No mention of that. Let's go to the next one. So it was when the days of feasting had run their course that Job would send and sanctify them. What did he send? Send a message to sanctify them? I will say it's a message, but we don't know. He would send something to them in order that they would be set apart, sanctified, right? Set apart and sanctified is the same. So in order to sanctify them, he would maybe send for them to come. Who knows? And he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. So he would make sacrifices. And it says, because he said, it might be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. So Job did this regularly. So it's sort of hinting that there was something wrong with the children. There was a little bit of fear in Job about the condition of the hearts of the children. Yeah? So he was offering the sacrifices because he thought maybe they did something wrong. Maybe they cursed God in their hearts. What happens is when your parents give you everything, usually you take for granted what you were given. You learn that whatever you have, it's yours because you deserve it. Entitlement. Does that make sense? Don't be entitled. Learn to appreciate what you have and weigh up where it came from, because that is good in the sight of God. Can anybody look up that word for cursed in the Hebrew? BLB, Blue Letter Bible. The word that is used there for cursed, what's that in the Hebrew? What is it? Barak.
Barak is blessed.
Baruch, Barak. Blessed. Hold on. It's translated as cursed. What's going on? So the children might have sinned and blessed themselves.
Doesn't make sense.
I know. It took me a while too. It's like taking the name in vain. It's like blessing yourself when the blessing should be to God. You bless God, right? The word blessed in the ancient Hebrew means to kneel down and offer a gift. Yeah? Well, instead of you offering a gift to God because you are grateful for what He's given you, you take His gift and you give it to yourself. Right? It's self-idolatry. You worship yourself. Right? That's translated as a curse. Of course, because it brings a curse. But in this day and age, people like to bless themselves. Right? The I syndrome, we shall call it from here on. Right? No iPhone, I syndrome. Right? The age of the I. Me. Me, myself, and I. Don't get me started on Jim Carrey. Anyway. I, right? I bless myself. I deserve this. And so, that which belongs to God, you thieve it. You steal it. You're a thief. And so you bring a curse upon yourself. That which belongs to God, you use it for yourself. Does that make sense? So the word is translated as a curse, and rightly so, but the curse is the resulting part of it. It's actually a Hebraism meaning you bless yourself. Meaning you should be blessing God, but you bless yourself instead. And so Job did this as a good dad in order to make sure that there was peace between God and his children. This is what priesthood is about. Do you want to know what a priest is? That's what a priest is. The children are messing up. The children of God always mess up. And the priest has to stand between them and God and offer the incense, right? Remember when Israel had sinned and had been murmuring against God? Remembering Egypt and doing all those things that displeased God, murmuring. And then plague breaks out in the camp because of rebellion, and people begin to die from the outsides of the camp coming in towards the center. And Aaron, the high priest, lights up the censer and runs between the people, and where he meets the plague stops. Remember that?
Already 26,000 have died.
Yep. 26,000 had died at that point. But that's the role of the priest, to stand between life and death, between God and his people, to make atonement for them, to make sure that there is peace between the people and God. Yep. So when you think about, the scripture that talks about that God is creating a kingdom of priests, right? A people who are to become priests. In the Bible, it's translated sometimes kings and priests. In the Greek, he says a kingdom of priests in 2 Peter. God is making us into a kingdom of priests. All of us, without exception, will have to stand for the people. Especially during the millennial reign, when Messiah is going to be judging the nations. Remember? Matthew chapter 24, 25. When he separates the sheep from the goats and says to the sheep, inasmuch as you did it to the least of my brethren, you've done it unto me. Enter into my rest. And to the goats, he says, inasmuch as you did not do it to the least of my brethren, you did not do it unto me. Depart from me, you lawless ones, without law. Yep. And so, when we look at this man, he was a priest of Yehovah. standing up for his house. The role of a man as a priest in his house, Job shows us how to do it. He was offering atonement for his children just in case. Just in case. He didn't know. He wasn't invited to the party. He didn't know what happened there. Kids, invite your parents to your party. All right? Invite me too. I'll come. I'll bring the wine. No. So, honor the gray hair. It talks about in Proverbs, right? Honor those with gray hair. Give honor to them that came before you. Give honor to those who worked hard their whole life to provide for you, who raised you. Right? The whole argument in Matthew, 15, was it? When Yeshua is confronting the Pharisees, and it says, you break the law of God. That whole argument was about the fifth commandment. And so when you're looking at that, and you see what Job is doing, he was a good dad. He was a good man. All right, we're going to read the next part. Up to verse 12. Who'd like to read 6 to 12?
Now it happened on the day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, that Hasatan also came amongst them. Jehovah said to Hasatan, where have you come from? And Hasatan answered to Jehovah and said, from going back and forth in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. Jehovah said to Hasatan, have you considered my servant Job? For there is none like him in the earth, a blameless and upright man, one who fears God and turns away from evil. Hasatan answered Jehovah and said, does Job fear God for anything? Haven't you made a hedge around him and around his house and around all that he has on every side? You have blessed the works of his hands, and his substance increased in the land. But put forth your hand now and touch all that he has, and he will renounce you to your face. Jehovah said to Hasatan, behold, that all he has is in your power. Only on himself don't put forth your hand. And Hasatan went forth from the presence of Jehovah.
Right. So there was a day when the Bnei Elohim, the sons of God, I remember chapter 6 of Genesis, the Bnei Elohim, the sons of God. There was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before Jehovah, and Hasatan also came among them. Why would the sons of God have to present themselves before Jehovah?
The council of the Elohim.
Yep. We're going back to the council of the Elohim. Why would they present themselves before the council of the Elohim?
To put forth cases for and against the people.
What's Hasatan's role?
Accuser. He's the accuser.
Hasatan is the accuser, so they would present themselves to bring all the accusations against man. The sons of God refers to the fallen angels and whoever is left with Satan to govern the earth, right? The Nephilim, the disembodied spirit of the Nephilims, which is what we call the demons. So Satan and the demons came to present themselves before Jehovah to give the accusations before the council of the Elohim, to tell God what evils men had gotten themselves up to, right? To accuse people. And before they do any of that stuff, God brings up Job. Have you seen my servant Job? But anyway, before we get into that, who is Hasatan?
Accuser.
Guy with the red pajamas and horns, is that right? The guy with the red pajamas, Santa Claus. No.
He was given a role to be an archangel, and he was one of the most beautiful created, but he became prideful.
Yeah, a cherubim. The cherubim that covers. The covering cherubim. The one that fell because he wanted to be like us. Right? Because God had said, let us make men in our own image according to our likeness. And so Hasatan wanted to be like God because God said that we were going to be like him. Elohim, mighty ones. That's what Elohim means. It means mighty ones. The word that we translate as God. What's Hasatan's real name? Because Hasatan just means the adversary. Lucifer, Luzbel, the Latin meaning the light or the morning light, the bright light. That's also
Zazel, that's his name.
yes, Azazel. Right? Azazel is found in 2 books in the Bible, in your Bible, in Leviticus 16, I believe, and it's also found in the book of Enoch, both which talk about Azazel to be the leader of the fallen angels. And that's his real name. In the book of Jubilees, he's called Mastema. Anybody remember what Mastema meant? The destroyer, right? Or the accuser. He's the accuser, Mastema. And so we have all these different titles that he wears, but his real name is Azazel. In fact, God says, ascribe all sin to Azazel. That's why when in Yom Kippur, the high priest lays his hands on the goats, a goat for Yehovah, which is the one that gets killed, and a goat for Azazel, which is the goat that gets sent out to the wilderness of Azazel, which means the god of the ragged, or the god of the ragged places. And the goat is sent out there so that it would die. After Yeshua's passing, they actually took it to a cliff and threw it out. So because the goat kept coming back into Jerusalem. Anyway, that's a funny story.
Not for them at the time.
No, I can imagine. They send their sin out and it comes back. Anyway. And so Hasatan presents himself, and Yehovah questions him first, from where do you come? Where do you come? And the answer is pretty significant because Satan says, Hasatan answered Yehovah and said, from going to and fro on the earth. Huh? Small talk, right?
Must have been pretty tight.
But he must have been pretty tired, right? He went through the whole earth. Why would he go through the whole earth?
Looking for people to accuse.
Looking for intel.
Yeah, Hasatan walks to and fro the earth, seeking whom he may devour, destroy. The devourer is also another word in the Hebrew for the destroyer. He's seeking whom he might destroy, right? Whom he might catch in the act of doing something wrong, that he might accuse him before Yehovah and gain spiritual authority over them. Does that make sense? That's the whole game of Satan, trying to grab spiritual authority from you when you break in Torah. Hello. Are we awake?
Yep.
Torah. Torah is the law of God. The law set out for all creation to adhere to. The moment you break the Torah, you're in his field. You're in his power. And so the game of Hasatan is to find those who are breaking the Torah, who say they keep the Torah especially, Those who don't keep the Torah, he doesn't worry about. But those who keep the Torah, they're out of his control. So he wants to control everything. He is the prince of the power of the air, right? He wants to gain control over everything. Now Yeshua messed him up, because when he went to the cross and died, he freed us from the decree that was contrary to us in the courts of the Elohim. He took that which was against us, the law, the decree against the law of sin and death, and nailed it to the cross. Not the whole law, the decree against us, he nailed that to the cross, which frees us now from the power of Hasatan. Does that make sense? And so he is a priest forever unto the order of Melchizedek on our behalf in the courts of the Elohim. The great priest. Now when we come to him, right, and we ask him to forgive our transgressions and to bring us back into the fold, he takes everything that is against us and shows it to the Father and says, I die for this. And Hasatan can't say anything, because there is a legal precedent that Yeshua set out for us, for our benefit. Is that making sense, what I'm saying? Because it is important to understand these concepts as a foundation for spiritual warfare. You don't go physically and, beat up a devil, or, you hit them with the law of God. The law of God is what sets you out as one who gets defeated, or as one who wins against the enemy. It's all legalities. And you have to know the law of God to fight this battle. If you don't know the law of God, then you can't fight. Don't get into spiritual warfare unless you know the law of God. If that makes sense. Find a priest that does.
A Hebrew priest.
Yep.
Not a Catholic priest.
A priest that knows the law of God. Catholics don't know the law of God. Sorry. Then Yehovah says to Hasatan, have you considered my servant Job? There is none like him upon the earth, a blameless and upright man, he who fears Yehovah, God, Elohim, and shuns from evil. Why would God bring Job into the picture? God, it's like we're trying to stay out of trouble here, right? God, we're keeping a low profile. Shh, God.
Because he knew that he wouldn't waver.
That's right. But it's like, come on, God, have a little mercy on me. It's like, I'm trying to blend in here. Nothing to see here, guys. Nothing to see. And God just puts a beaming light on top of Job and says, no, look at Job. There he is. Come on. Everybody, look at Job. And there's Job hiding.
He's the man.
Who, me? What? Turn around. Why would God put Job in harm's way?
I exposed him.
He knew he could trust him.
Definition of harm's way. He knew he could trust him.
He wasn't going to waver in, yeah.
He knew that there was a man where God could put his trust on and showcase him to all the powers and principalities and make a stand against Satan, because Satan had deceived. Remember, he deceived a third of the angels. And so God is making a point with him. You don't have to be like Hasatan. You can be righteous and bad things can happen to you and still come on top. And we're going to see the whole journey that he goes through Because of that, and sometimes we think that our troubles are much, but anyway, we'll get to that. Tribulation of Job. Hasatan answered Yehovah and said, "Does Job fear God for nothing?" Here we go, twisting the scriptures.
Again.
Did God really say that you would not die, that you would die? But take now from the fruit of the tree. God knows that when you eat it, you're going to be like Him, knowing good and evil. You're not ready yet. Anyway, but you want to know. Does Job fear God for nothing? Right? Trying to twist God's words. Have you not made a hedge? Let's not talk about hedges today. Right, Brother Ian? We just finished cutting a big hedge. Anyway. Have you not made a hedge around him, around his household, and around all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. All true statements, right? Of those who walk with God, they carry the blessings, right? If you do what is right, you are obedient to God, you are going to be blessed. These blessings shall hunt you down. Yeah? They will come after you, it says in the Psalms. But now stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely bless himself. Curse, right? He will surely bless himself in your face.
Very subtle, isn't it?
Yep.
Like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. Job is the way that he is because you're blessing him, not because there's anything good in him. It's like that because you bless him. That's all that it is. But stretch your hand and you're going to see that he's going to turn around and bless himself instead of blessing you. He's going to bless himself to your face. He's going to curse you, in other words. He's going to turn. Right? That's the sign of those who are weak in the faith. In the faith. Not in the face. In the faith. Those who are weak in the faith, trouble comes, the pressures of life. Yeah. Remember the 4 different types of,
Seeds.
yep, the different types of soil. And in the face of trouble, they're going to wither and die. They're going to be taken away by the enemy. They're going to grow root and grow really quickly and then die off because they didn't have enough strength to continue, right? But those on the good ground, they're unmovable. Stretch out your hand over his stuff and we'll see how he reacts. And God says, okay. Behold, all that he has is in your power. Here, Satan, I give you authority. Poor Job was like, what? What?
People kind of guinea pig.
Yeah. Behold, all that he has is in your power. Only do not lay your hand on him, on his person. So Hasatan went out of the presence of Yehovah. Right? Now Hasatan has power to destroy all that Job has, except Job, of course. All right, who wants to read the next bit? To the end.
It fell on a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. But there came a messenger to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them, and the Sevaim attacked and took them away. Yes, they have killed the servants with the edge of the sword, and I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, there also came another and said, The fire of God has fallen from the sky and has burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them. And I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, there came also another and said, The Kasdim made 3 bands and swept out on the camels and have taken them away. Yes, and killed the servants with the edge of the sword. And I alone have escaped to tell you. While he was still speaking, there came also another and said, Your sons and your daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell on the young men, and they are dead. I alone have escaped to tell you. Then Job arose and tore his robe and shaved his head and fell down on the ground and worshipped. He said, Naked I came out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return them. Jehovah gave, and Jehovah has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job did not sin, nor charged God with wrongdoing.
All right. Wow. So much in that. Verse 13 begins by saying, Now there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. It's always the oldest brother, isn't it? Just checking. Sam, behave. Ian, I'm looking at you. Right, it's always the oldest. No.
You're the oldest.
I'm the oldest. So you. Right, so a messenger came to Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys feeding beside them, and the Shibeonites, or Sabaeans, from the land of Sheba, Ethiopia. Sheba, Ethiopia? Anyway, we'll find out later. Cush, yeah, that's right. Took them all away. All right, so there goes their flocks. And then they killed the servants by the edge of the sword. There goes the servants. And I alone escaped, the lucky guy, to tell you. While he was still speaking, another one came and said, Fire from God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them. I alone have escaped to tell you. Wow.
That's the offering. What's that considered as the offering?
No, at this point.
What offering?
Fire fell from heaven. Yep.
The sheep.
So the place where we see the fire of God is when Elijah was
That's right.
making the offering. At that point, Elijah had set out a proper offering for God, but we also see when Elijah is sitting on Mount Carmel and the people come and say, Man of God, come with us because the king is calling you. And Elijah said, If I am a man of God, may fire come down from heaven and consume you and your 50 men. And it happened twice. Right? And they were destroyed. And the third guy was very smart and threw himself on the floor and said, Do not destroy your servant or your 50 servants that come with me.
Those 5 bands.
Yeah. Total fire ban. So I don't think this is an offering. I think this is a judgment. The debate is whether the children were doing something wrong or not. We don't really know. The text doesn't tell us, so we're not going to go there. Drinking wine is not a sin.
Getting drunk is.
Getting drunk is. To some extent. Proverbs says you are to give, someone wine so they can get drunk. But anyway.
That can be married.
Yeah, they can be merry
Mary,
and forget their poverty. Anyway, there is a place and a time for everything. For the priesthood, though, getting drunk is no. It is a sin for the priesthood to get drunk, especially when they are on duty. Don't drink on duty.
Like como los hijos de Aarón.
They're drinking on
Yes, and then you have the sons of that guy, descendant of Simeon, who were told, was it Simeon? I think it was Simeon. Who were told not to drink wine and to live in tents. Yeah. And they obeyed the voice of their father. Interesting, isn't it? And God commended them for it. While he was still speaking, another one came and said the Chaldeans of Chesidim formed their 3 bands and raided the camels and took them away. So there goes the camels. The servants were killed with the edge of the sword, and I alone escaped, one lucky one. While he was still speaking, another one came and said, your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house, and suddenly a great wind came from the wilderness and struck the 4 corners of the house. Why the 4 corners?
The wind came from every direction, maybe. And maybe different times.
Yeah. Remember in the book of Revelations when God calls the 4 corners, the winds from the 4 corners of the earth to stand still? And in the study that we did for Ezekiel also talks about the 4 winds being a sign of judgment. And so they are dead, and I alone escaped. Then Job arose and tore his robe and shaved his head. Why did he do that? It's a sign of mourning, right? The Bible talks about, tearing your clothes, shaving your head as a sign of mourning, putting ashes on the ground and sitting on it. Sackcloth is the skin of black goat, a mourning shroud, basically, putting mourning garments. Putting dirt on your head because it symbolizes that we came from dirt, and from dirt we will go, and to dirt we will return. And so we are saying to God, what is our life but dirt? What is our life but ashes? And that is a way to do mourning for what has happened. We see that happening with Mordecai in the book of Esther. Mordecai does that as well. And he said famous words, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return there. Such wisdom from one of the richest men, or the richest man on earth at that point in time. See, the difference between Job and most people is that Job was not entitled. He knew where everything came from and whom it belonged to. Right? When we say we own nothing in this world, not even our skin, we are correct. Nothing we have is ours. Nothing belongs to us. Right? We are servants of God, and everything that has been given to us as a blessing is for us to care for us to take care of. Does that make sense? So this is important to understand, because this generation specifically that we're living in right now, people think that they are entitled. I'm entitled to a house, to a job, to provision. I'm entitled to my space, to have, a good life and whatever else. None of those things come because you deserve it. Those things come if you're obedient to God, and He, in His mercy, decides to give it to you as a blessing. If you obey His Torah, you put yourself in a good position to receive those things. But even then, you're not entitled to anything. Does that make sense? So the second part to that is a sense of gratefulness. When you do receive something from God, be grateful. Because in being grateful to God, you increase your chances of Him wanting to continue blessing. You know, think about it as a father, or as, as an employer, or whatever situation you are. You give something that cost you something to someone else, and you give it to them with all your love. It's like, oh, thanks. And they throw it on the side. Don't give it a second look. You're going to continue giving them things. I mean, if you're a giving person, you probably will try it 2 or 3 times. But at some point, you're going to say, everything I give them is like, they don't really care about it. They don't take care of it. They don't appreciate it. Why would I continue giving it to them? Right? With God, it's the same. So the point that I want to put out is that Iyob was a man who knew how to be grateful for the things that he had. He was not entitled, even though he was one of the richest men, all the richest men on earth at that time. He didn't take that as, oh, I made this myself, Look at what I made. Who said that? Nebuchadnezzar. Where did he end up after that? Straight after that, where did he end up? Mad in the fields, eating grass for 7 years. Like a beast. Werewolf. The original werewolf.
The other man who said that was the man
Well, not werewolf.
that you can rest now, so porque ya tengo todo mi granero lleno.
Yes. The one that God said, foolish men, they come to take your soul tonight. Right? With a point when you become self-considered, you're gifting yourself, right? You're blessing yourself. Oh, look at what I've done. I created this with my own hands. I worked hard for this, and I made it. You did nothing. God is the one that gives you the power to make wealth. God is the one that gives you your health. God is the one that gives you your strength. God is the one that gives you life, breath, food, clothing, home to live in. God is the one that provides these things for you through His blessings. You're not entitled to anything. And the more grateful you are, the more God will increase His blessings on you. They're directly proportional to your gratefulness, if that makes sense. And so Job recognized that all good things came from God. And naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return there. I'm not taking anything. Right? And if it fits God to wipe everything off that I have, so be it. It's His right. Who am I to tell God what to do? Because that's the other thing, people want to tell God what to do. Jehovah gave and Jehovah has taken away. Blessed be the name of Jehovah. What a man. I would have cried and sobbed and argued and kicked and screamed on the ground for hours, days maybe, before I came to, yeah, you're right. Or something along these lines, but this guy straight away. In all this, Iyob did not sin, nor charged God with any wrongdoing. Right? He didn't blame God. Oh, look at what are you doing? Look at what you've done. Right? He just accepted God's will. That's very hard to do. We know. It's hard to accept God's will. Especially when you think you know better than God. Come on, let's be genuine. right? We think that we know what's best for us. And when God doesn't play along with us, we check a fit. Because we know better than God, right? Anyway, must be just me. Sorry, guys. It's interesting because when I'm reading the book of Job, I wasn't really thinking about Job from a perspective of the priesthood. And this morning, I woke up and I had this realization, sort of like a download. And it was so much information that God was putting down that I actually had a headache. I did. No jokes. I even told my wife about it. Because there is something that's interesting about Job that sort of clicks back to the understanding that we are being trained to become like God. In the process, we are being asked to become priesthood. All of us, right? And it's like, well, I'm not called to be a priest, I'm not called to be a servant of Jehovah. And that might be true at the time, we're not anointed or appointed by Yeshua to do the work like what we do. And that's true, but it doesn't exclude you from the kingdom priesthood calling. Does that make sense? We're all being called to be a kingdom of priests. And so this is the point that I want to leave you with. Maybe we'll read it. Where is it? So First Peter, 1 Peter 2:9. You are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood. See, here translates it as a royal priesthood. From the Greek, it's a kingdom of priests, or a royal priesthood. Yeah, but that's what it means, a kingdom of priests. A holy nation, a set-apart nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness and into his marvelous light. That you might be witnesses of what he's done. And the role of the bride of Messiah in the millennial reign, if you followed the studies that we've done on that, is to intercede. So we are going to be judging the angels of God, he says. Paul says that. Right? You should already judge this guy, because don't you know you're going to be judging the angels of God? As in the people that came before us, the messengers of God. And so we are all called to this calling. All of us, without exception. So the point that I'm making is, don't just think that, they have the calling, that's them, and I'll just go and do whatever I want because, doesn't really matter. They have to obey God. I can sort of, twist it here and there and make it the way I want it. At the end of the day, when Messiah comes, don't wing it. At the end of the day, when Messiah comes, you are called to be a royal priesthood. Right? A kingdom of priests. That's what you're becoming. Whether you have been called to do it now or whether you will be called to do it when Messiah comes, that's up to him. But at the end of the day, you got to prepare yourself now for what's coming after. Yeah? So the whole point of us doing Shabbat and teaching and learning and all this other stuff, doing the feasts, is that you learn how to be a priest. Because in the millennial reign, guess what? You're going to be a priest. The whole kingdom is going to be involved in being a priesthood on the earth. Because after, the events that will lead up to the coming of Messiah, there's not going to be a lot left But after the first resurrection, we're going to have all these people upon the earth that are going to need shepherds, are going to need guidance. They're going to need to be taught the Torah. Remember the wedding feast parable? There's all these different people. Some are good, some are bad. Some don't have the right clothing or no clothing. But, so the role of the bride in the millennial reign is to be a priesthood. So if you're part of the bridal gang sort of people, if you're part of the bride, then you're going to be a priest. You're part of the kingdom priesthood. To teach the Torah. And to make sure that people are keeping the Torah. So, let's get started, eh? Awesome. All right. We'll leave it at that. Thank you. Shalom.